So now let's get on to the tools and going through the components. So what's a prototype? So a prototype just means an early version of a product, and basically all your subsequent versions are going to come from that initial one. So as I've kind of talked about earlier, a prototype can just be useful just for you, just to kind of work out if there's any gaps in your thinking, and if there have been any leaps of logic that you've made. When you start to prototype it, you will see those, and that can be very helpful to iron out any issues early on, because what you don't want is your developer trying to create a product where there's gaps or inconsistencies or things are not quite right in it. You kind of want to get those ironed out and tidied up before you hand it over. So it can be good for your team if you've got a co-founder as well, for everybody to be on the same page, to say, right, this is what I had in my head. Is this what you've got in your head? Because again, that's another thing. When we talk about things, sometimes it seems like we mean the same thing, but if we both sketched it, it could look totally different, and then we might need to work that through and sort of understand why we've got different perceptions and which is the right way that we want to go forward, that you both agree on. So it's very good for visual planning, because it's much easier to see. Most people today are visual learners, or at least can understand better through visuals and often than reading and speaking sometimes. So when you show people, as they say, a picture tells 1,000 words, don't they? It's much quicker for us to look at something and go, oh, I get you, I know what you mean. And it's cheap prototyping as well, because we create a simple version of something, not one that takes us months or years to build. It also means that pivoting is lower risk. So pivoting, as I was saying earlier, is changing your business model, or even sometimes your idea, whether it's just tweaking it or maybe quite a fundamental change. Because sometimes when you look at the prototype, you realise that something isn't quite right, or maybe you want to change the customer group or whatever it is. But it's cheap to do that. It's not cheap to do it when you've already paid for a product to be built, and then you're trying to pay to change something which already exists. So it also is great for reducing the risk of failure, again, because we can throw away a piece of paper, we can ditch something that we've just created in a free app. It's not really much to lose with that, basically, but we can learn a lot, and it can help us to make better decisions. So some examples. So this is Draftium on the left-hand side. So Draftium basically gives lots of examples of different layouts for websites, which can be very helpful sometimes, because again, if you're developing like a software as a service product or a web-based app, thinking about the layout of your homepage and then the inside of your app, that needs to be worked through. So this provides lots of different examples, and you can literally copy those and say to your developer, here, this is kind of how I visualize the homepage would look. And that's great. They can see very clearly then exactly what you mean. The product on the right is called Balsamic. Most of the products that I'm showing you today are free, or else very low cost. This one is one of the few that's actually paid, but this is a pro product. So a lot of companies, professional, who will pay developers good money and all this sort of thing to work on their products, would use these type of tools. So they are quite high quality tools. So it's up to you, but this is an example of a prototype that's been developed in Balsamic.